Thank you. All
And
right.
so
And
we
I
can
am just
go back.
trying to find Norma. Hold on. I know
Okay.
you're here, Norma. I'm just trying to find you on my screen. There you are.
Hi, Erica. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Karen. Good
Uh,
morning.
Oh, welcome. Good morning. Good morning.
And there we are. There's everybody. Norma, good morning. All right, so I'm going to just say a few words of introduction about our guests, and this is taken from what we've found about them on the web related to some of their work. And there's a very recent article that just came out about Norma that we'll say more about at some point. So it's our pleasure to introduce to you Geho Hueco Norma Jacobs, who is of the Wolf Clan in the Cayuga Nation of the Great Haudenosaunee Confederacy. Geho Hueco is her Ongweowe name. It means ancestral females holding the canoe before me. And that name positions her in an ancestral line of great women of the Wolf Clan. She's been given the responsibilities in the canoe of empowering herself, her family, her community, nation, and the Confederacy. Her mother told her that it was important to know their cultural ways so she would be able to help explain them to people. And it is these experiences and responsibilities that she holds as a Longhouse faith keeper, also an advisor to the National Inquiry on Missing and Murdered Indigenous Women and Girls, and as an elder who has taught in universities, colleges, and institutions. And it was my great privilege to meet and hear Norma speak at a global gathering of Indigenous peoples last June in Buffalo, New York, on Haudenosaunee lands. Welcome, Norma. I also want to introduce Erica Wood, and it's just so interesting to see how these connections happen in our world. I was introduced to Erica literally by a neighbor of mine who teaches at UMass Amherst, who had met Erica and heard her speak and said, Curtis, if you don't know Erica, you must know Erica. So it's my great privilege to introduce you to Erica Wood, who is Alaska native in Nupiaq, a master's student at the State University, New York College of Environmental Science and Forestry in conservation biology, and a Sloan Indigenous Fellow at the Center for Native Peoples and the Environment. Erica is earning her degree at ESF because she's passionate about plants, about which we've spoken, the biological mechanisms governing what they do, the ecology of how they fit into larger systems, and their response to a warming environment. She's also at ESF because it offers her the opportunity to bridge traditional and scientific knowledge. Her focus is Arctic plant ecology in the Alaskan tundra, specifically the salmonberry plant. And she's partnering with native villages in southwestern Alaska as salmonberries are a crucial part of their subsistence diet. She first met community members while working on a short film for this particular village, documenting their food sovereignty and stewardship of their traditional lands. So again, welcome to you, Erica. Welcome to you, Norma. We are truly, truly honored to have you both with us for this tea conversation. And so when we were talking in prep for this, Norma, you invited us to think about coming together for tea and sharing what's on our minds and beginning our conversation there. And we've titled this conversation, How to Lean into Right Relationship, and right relationship in many different directions. And so maybe we could start just by saying we are aware that we need to do healing work between people, not just between people, but we'll start there, right? We see lots of fracture, and we've seen what, of course, has happened over history between the colonizers and indigenous peoples. So we know there's much healing work to be done. And so we're wondering about that, how you both are thinking about healing amongst the peoples, amongst the nations. And so Norma, would you like to get us started? What is on your mind? And it looks like you're on mute, Norma.
Okay. Is that better? Can hear
Yes, I can hear you.
Yes. Well, greetings to you, all of you who are present. And I just wanted to welcome this new day and think about it as a new beginning because we just finished our midwinter ceremonies. And it's about revitalization and remembering. And it's also about re-enlivening, bringing forward our past into our present and sending those on into the future. So, our life has been, outlined for us in how we prepare ourselves and to get ready for this new time. And our prayers are, um, of gratitude that we've come this far and we've survived this winter and many things before us, because we're still here and we're still able to carry on the messages that were brought to our people, our ceremonies and our language and many other things that make us, a unique community. We still have our confederacy that we count on, and they're carrying out their responsibility as well in leadership. Even though we've been, affected by outside influence, we're still trying to weave through that through our own reconciliation of who we are as a people. And it's very it's a lot of work, to be able to reconcile differences and to come to a place of understanding of one another. And I think that's why the two row was established, was for us to have that consideration and to have those conversations, which should have happened at our time of contact. So because we were different people and we didn't understand each other, that we made a lot of mistakes along the way, in our conversations and our understandings and our attitudes and our behaviors. So, so it's thinking about all of those things right now and, just grateful, that we're still able to continue forward and to nurture our children and to nurture the knowledge that exists. And as you were talking about, our right relations, like we always have to start with ourselves first. We have to know who we are and where we come from. You know, how did we get here? What was our journey like as we traveled from the sky world to this earth walk? What were the tools given to us in that journey? That would sustain us while we were here because we are a spirit being and, we are all spiritual beings and we come from a sacred place, so understanding that, that we are all of spirit and being able to, to open our minds to understand, the things that we've forgotten about and, to revitalize those at this time. So, it's a opportunity. Every day is a new opportunity. Every breath that we take is a new opportunity for us to move forward and to remember, and to pass those words along, to others because they too are a part of that future, so that they can continue those conversations with their unborn faces. So it's a really, it's a meaningful time, and and listening to the spring birds that are out right now, and the stories that are in, created through our understandings of our relationship with creation, and how these times have eluded us over time because we were taken away from our way of life. So when we hear those birds now, because we have regained some of our language and and our ceremonies are still really active, that just enjoying the songs from those birds and how they help to uplift our minds,
Mm.
how they sing their beautiful songs and how they dance for one another, to attract a partner, the colors that they are, the songs that they sing, because they all have a different song, and there are teachers, that share with us, you know, um, that we too are modeled, in that way, that we all, you know, have a different gift to offer to our people, and we can sing so many songs, and revitalize and cause that vibration to happen,
Mm.
and to go out into our communities to help those who couldn't make it to ceremony, to cause that vibration that they would feel the movement of those songs, the connection, and to be healed by that, just the vibration, so that those songs and the vibration has a way to travel, to be able to include and to help us to remember, our purpose here. So I'm really grateful for this time, and and I celebrated. I went to our ceremony and heard the stories, heard the songs, and seen the number of people who have come home, because of them learning language, because they long for something from so long ago, by being disconnected, and they come and they're happy because they're able to find their peace within that ceremony, and to come out of there and to be walking so high off the ground, so some of them say, to be revitalized, to be uplifted, to be spiritually connected, to all of those things that have happened. So, in my beginning, that's where I'm, just been. We just finished like the day before yesterday, and we played our great game of the dish game, we call it. It's played with peach stones and in a hollowed out bowl, and it's about that, creating the balance, of what we've come through, to put it in everybody's mind, to be working together, to have that trust, to build capacity like within our communities. So, I'm really proud and I'm really grateful that I can be a part of that, and to understand like the stories and how it's meant to be, for our people, how we're to live, like planting and harvesting and going out to the woods, to gather, or to go hunting, to go fishing, to do all of these things that were, a free entity for us. They just come to greet us, to be with us, to spend some time to help us to remember. So I'm grateful for that. And I always think about how, when you mention about taking breaths, and that's what I do in the morning is like, I'm so happy that I still have breath, that I can breathe and I always think, well, maybe there's something that I can help somebody with today. Whether it be small, whether it be something that maybe I need help to, I invite someone else to be inclusive, to be a part of this process. So grateful for my family and for the things that they do. And I was always told that, we start from within, to be having that gratitude for ourselves, that we have the ability to walk this earth, and we give thanks to our ability to see, to hear, to smell and to taste, to chew, to swallow, and for all of that food to go into our system and be distributed evenly to where the need is required, for that sustenance. So, I'm so fortunate, that this still happens, that we still have our white corn, we still have our beans, we still have our squashes, that we grow. And they were meant there to be, for our people. That's what gives us, the ability to think, and to expand our minds beyond, to be curious, um, to be engaging and being grateful for the gifts and the knowledge that they bring to us, because we can learn so much from the plants. We can learn so much from each other. We can have a conversation, but we can't really have a conversation with plants. But we can acknowledge them and we can listen. We can watch how they move. We can watch the time that they appear. We know how to store them. So there's so much, like, and sometimes I said that when I plant, if I sit on my porch and I listen, that I can hear those plants growing out of the ground, to hear them as they sprout up from that earth, and I go there and I see them, I see them coming through the earth. Like it's so powerful, just to have that new understanding, that new relationship, that it's my responsibility, my obligation to look after those, to water it, to hoe and to, soften the soil. And I was told that our gardens are like our children, to be able to provide support, to go out and sing to our plants, to have a conversation with them because they have a spirit, so building those relationships, it has to start from ourselves and to understand ourselves and how our minds work, being grateful for the gifts that we have. So those are the things that, that are always in my mind, like to bring about that peace or to bring the awareness, to this is what I think about that, and to share those stories with one another because we're still inclusive. We're still inviting people to come in and to listen and to share, and that's where we have the most meaning, like the most understanding is sitting in a circle and having a conversation. Because in that way, we see that we're not any higher than anybody else. We all sit at an equal foundation. We're all human. We can all breathe, and we find those similarities, with one another. They're not the same. We're not the same, but we have similarities. And to embark on those to enrich them for each other. I think that's, our purpose to be here, to enjoy life, to honor life in a good way. Mm-hmm.
We're just inviting a breath.
Mm-hmm.
My wife is sighing here next to me listening to these teachings, Norma.
Mm-hmm.
And Erica, inviting you into the circle.
Ana Arigav Lalotak. Good morning, everyone. Mweha Norma, thank you for sharing your words of
Hi,
wisdom with
Erica.
us. It's before I get to your question, I just wanted to say it's such a treat to be here in many ways. I used to work in food systems in Massachusetts and really look to food systems in England and in New England Food Vision doing our work. And also, the last week, my uncle from Alaska has been staying with me, and he just left this morning. And it's really nice after, he's left and missing him to be back in a space where I just get to visit with you all and visit with you, Norma. So thank you. I would say for healing, I definitely, everything, Norma, that you were saying around it starts with ourselves, really resonated with me. I was just talking with my uncle last night about our way of life and education and academia and bridging these worlds. And he was saying, our way of life itself is an education, and people don't always value that, even ourselves. We don't realize um, how much we know and how important these teachings are, and
Mm-hmm.
how to value them ourselves. And part of this healing process is reinvigorating our people, especially our youth, and making sure they know that what they know is important and it adds so much to the world and to our people. Through displacement and erasure, a lot of our people have lost connection either to community or to relationships with land and are more than human relatives. And so healing is this journey within our communities of reconnecting and rebuilding relationship.
Thank you, Erica. Adding another breath for those who are listening. Karen, what's on your mind?
We're always thinking about, what do we do, right? What do we do in the midst? And both Norma and Erica, you've already given us those and everything you've shared, reinvigorating from ourselves. It doesn't have to be some other body telling us how that is or what that is. And connecting to our land and our birds and the songs and the ceremonies. We all have ceremonies, and the ceremonies are holding us together, holding us close, and also weaving that past, Norma, you're talking about the past that we want to hold on to for today and for the future. Those ceremonies remind us of the richness and the warmth in that. It fuels us, right? And so
Yes.
so many things and I was taking notes. So many things that we can share because I say we, I'm speaking for the, universal we, because the me really wants to be reminded and that some of the tools I have, right? And I just forget that I have them and that, I need to dig deep or maybe not so deep, but to pull them out and, my toolkit and pull them out and use them in such a way that I am honoring the gift of life that you mentioned, Marla. Every single day is a gift. And
Yes.
honoring that by, how we move through the world, what we do. And just so I can, I hope that others were taking notes with their cozy beverage, right? And also, thinking about those different pieces that are right on the tip of their mind, but they've left them out there and bringing them in and living with that. And, we're thinking so much about our relationship to the land, right? the people in the land and the land of the people. And just wondering, how do we, if you have some of your everyday practices that you just, it's just how you move, that we can be thinking about to be more intentional about that relationship of us to the land and the land to us. Would you share then, Erica? Because all of us in some way are working with the land, whether we're working in service of the land and policy, or we're working in it with our hands in the soil. That would be so helpful.
Yeah, I'm hearing just, I was just going to say, just as a question that's probably, how do we remember, right? In our day to day, how do we remember? What are the practices? You've mentioned some already, both of you.
Yes, I have.
Just the telling of story.
I always remember, when my mom was cooking and she would create, her pies or her cookies, and she had her own design that she would put on pies, and when I think back about them, and I always think that she was telling me a story of creation, because in some of the pies that she would mark with a spoon in a center, and it would look like a full moon. And then outside of that, she made these little marks. And so you fold that pie dough over, right? So then you make that center cut. And then from there, I made like half rings all the way around. And to me, when I looked at that and I thought more deeply about it, that she was telling me about the phases of the moon, and how it contributed, and our relationship as women to the moon, and our grandparents, our grandmothers. Um, and then when she made her cookies, she did the same thing with that little mark with her spoon. And, it always reminded me of the moon. So she would take me back that far to creation, our creation story, and talk about, the existence of the moon and how it got to have that name and to be looked at as our grandmother. And we tell stories now that, that our grandmother knows everything about us, which is so true, because she's still monitoring our time, as women, and she's the one that's responsible for the rising of the tides when we have our children, and in birth, and the water, like she has a relationship with that to comfort that baby, while the baby is in utero. So there's so many things that, that my mom, even though she didn't talk a whole lot, but she shared a lot of like her doings, the way she did things, the way she made bread, and, putting that little finger mark in the center of her bread dough, and telling us, that that was our belly button, and that's where we were connected to. And how, when we want to reach back to our past, is to go in that clockwise, because our ceremonies are counterclockwise. So when we want to go back, we go back and rub our navel, in that clockwise position. And we can, get in contact with some of those stories, some of those connections from long ago. So we're so fortunate to have these little, inklings of teachings, and for our people, like, we're supposed to be using our minds. And that's one of the teachings that I can remember, that is related to this, is my mom used to always say, and say, and says, "Well, and that meant to go beyond like what that word is. It's like a tree, like branches reaching out to all different directions, and or it can just to be expanding your mind, to think about these other things and are they connected to that? Or for when I first heard that word, I thought that it was, an added beak like a baseball cap, and that beak that was added on, like it was going beyond that, adding on to that hat. So, there's still so much, that we can dive into the depths of knowledge, you know, and to source those things that our old people had at one time through storytelling, because there's always a story before the story, that takes us back and back and back. But we have to do the work. We have to have, our minds to be directed in that way and to ask ourselves questions or to have dreams. Right now is a dream time for us, dreaming that all of, those trees are going to bring sap, that the earth's going to warm up, the berries are going to grow. We're going to be able to harvest medicines. We're able to go into the woods and see what's there that we can use the wood for making a fire for the sap to boil it down. So it's using our minds to go beyond, what someone tells us, because that's how we create that web of life, so that when we're reaching out and we understand that process, then we weave back in, to the center again. And we have this in our thoughts that when we get to the center, we move outside of that again. And we're creating a web, and we're connecting with different people. We have different experiences every place where that ties off, to talk about those stories, the things that I learned at this place or from that person, how it struck me, to learn and to move forward and to believe in myself, to believe in my culture, to believe that language was the foundation of all things. So there's just the depth of knowledge that exists that we probably only touched the surface with, and we need to dive down deeper, just like that muskrat, as creation was formed, to dive down into the depths and to bring up that soil of nurturance, of guidance, of support, of medicine that we can bring back to life and to nurture our future. So there's lots of things to think about, to bring this wisdom forward and to share it with people so that we begin to firm this foundation, and that it becomes not solidified but firm in our minds, that we have something to go back to, to reaffirm our stories, to reaffirm our way of life, to reaffirm our relationship, in many different ways, whether it be personal, whether it be human, whether it be with animals, whether it be with plants, with any of the elements at all. So I think that, knowledge is so powerful, and it comes alive because it's instilled through story. through experience, you know, and it gives us that flexibility to be able to reach back and to bring it forward and to, you know, to expand it in front of ourselves, you know, and to see the bigger picture. But there's still more to delve into in regards to that. There's still more to, you know, to look at, because we're still in that process of creating. You know, we have that responsibility to make it good for those coming faces still.
Yeah, Norma. I think for me, in thinking about relationship with land, it's it'd be from my experience, lived experience, and um, knowledge of our culture, we can't disconnect culture and cultural practices and relationship from the land. That they are one and the same.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you know, in our language, we have this word, it's nyepepa, and it translates roughly to real food. But it is the Anupiaq word for food, but it's food that is from the land. It is from relationship with land and animals and more than human relatives, and given to us and received through cultural practices. And you know, as the land feeds us, we then become the land. And you know, when I'm out on the tundra, you could feel the spirits of our ancestors and our human relatives, and it's all connected, right? And you know, we all have different paths, and we can all have relationship with land. And so I think about it as how can we show deference to land as a living thing, the living being it is, and how can we show up? How can we give? And I think it's important that we all think really intentionally and slow down and think about how we want to approach land, even in small ways and every day. And how can you build a practice of appreciation and remembrance? And I really appreciated how we started this visit, because I think just taking some breaths and feeling the energy of the space we're in is one way that you can show that respect and develop your own personal spiritual approach for or guidelines for how you are relating with land. And you know, developing that relationship, we can you know, just listen, watch, learn, and look for little things. As cliche as that sounds, I think it's, you know, if you notice the little moss or the mushroom or the way the leaves are turning and the tree in front of you, noticing those little things and spending time is the cornerstone of building that relationship.
Yeah, as you were both speaking, something that was coming up for me that I really appreciate. I was sharing just before we jumped on that actually I'm in northern Florida, so-called Florida, in the ancestral lands of the Timucuan, and was at the Okefenokee swamp yesterday. And to learn not just the history of the swamp, but also what Okefenokee means, right? Trembling earth, trembling lands,
yeah.
which is in reference to the peat moss that is really abundant there. And I just think there's such a gift in returning to what Indigenous peoples named the land, because it has deep meaning. It's not some white colonizer's name. It's actually in deference to the particular characteristic of the land and what it can teach us. And so going through this great, amazing swamp with a guide who was knowledgeable enough to know the meaning of the name, and seeing that now happening in Western Massachusetts, which is where we live, and Land Trust now bringing back the Indigenous names. It's just it's such a gift. It's such a it provides such meaning and relationship in the ways that you're both talking about, and so really appreciate that. Karen, I'm looking at you. You don't know it, but I am looking at you and wondering if we should go to another question or go into some breakout groups. What would you like to do?
I think there's probably a burning desire to share what's on their hearts and minds. And we had the small breakouts for them to begin to talk about what they're learning and what they're affirming and what's on their hearts and minds. And then we're going to have the opportunity coming back for more conversation um, with Norma and Erica. So maybe pausing for now and moving to the breakout.
Great. So I've set up these breakout rooms for 4 to 5 people, and we're hoping that people will say yes to these because, as both Norma and Erica are saying, the conversation is what matters here, right? Is to continue, or as Norma, you said in Buffalo, to expand the teachings, right? So to continue to expand and weave. So we're going to invite you into breakout rooms for 12 minutes to meet some people who may or may not be familiar to you. So certainly introduce yourselves to one another and talk about what's coming up inside of you as you hear this conversation. And we'll come back for some comments and questions. So opening all of those rooms now, and Norma and Erica, you can go to a room or you can stay with us. We can continue the conversation here. And people are going to their rooms. Oops. Karen went into a room. So it looks like, oh no, she's coming back. And I might have to move a few people.
This is the fun part.
I'm just doing a little tech, let's see, somebody. Tech moving here. Oh good, it looks like we've got. Everybody is at least a pair.
Everybody's assigned, right? But some people are.
Yeah, some people are still here with us. So
Okay.
anything we discuss, others may be. Oh, somebody's just joining. So,
I got them. There they go.
okay.
Who is that just joined? Welcome, welcome.
It's Hannah.
And are you with us?
Hannah's not joined by audio yet. Oh,
Okay.
Hannah is now here by audio. Hi, Hannah.
Hannah.
Hi, I was on my phone and then my phone pooped out on me and then I couldn't access the breakout room. Can you put me in a breakout room, Curtis, please?
Yes, you should have an
Thank you.
invitation now.
Okay, thanks.
Hannah, that's
Hi.
me.
Hi, everybody.
How
Oh, hi,
are you?
Karen. Hi. Thank you so much for having us.
Absolutely. Thanks for being here. Someone else was just admitted to Curtis.
Yes, Elizabeth Henderson, welcome.
Hi, Liz. Welcome.
Liz, I mean,
Oh,
oh, not hearing anyone. I will go ahead and extend invitation to room 5. If Elizabeth would like to go there. Okay, I think we are Good for another 10 minutes.
I put the questions in the chat, but you want
I can put those in
to, for the breakouts? Yeah,
did you send them? I don't see them.
I did. I thought, well, maybe they got lost in the transfer. I put them in the chat before we left the big group.
All right. Well, I will just take this opportunity, Erica and Norma, to introduce you to my wife, who's seen here.
Oh,
Hi.
This is Emily, who's heard a lot about both of you.
Hi, Emily.
Hi.
nice to meet
So
you.
genuine pleasure to meet both of you. Curtis said you have to sit with me Friday morning, and I said, I'm on it. I got this because
God.
I've heard such great things about all of you. So it's lovely to witness Curtis's work and all the work all of you do. I just appreciate all the stories, and I'm reflecting actively here on everything that you've offered. Being recorded.
Thank you.
It is. It is. I could pause recording. That is true. I could do that. We will.
And so when I look at that squash, I see that there's resilience. And it's about the womb. It's about the seeds that is carried in that womb. You know, there's so many. And they're all embraced by this fiber. You know, and it's difficult to disconnect them. And I think that women who have clean squash knows how firmly those fibers connect around the seed. And it's hard to break away, you know, and there's in all of our dances, there's not one dance that we do that is separate. Everything is connected. And so I learned all of this from that squash. And I learned about that you can never be disconnected from who you are because there's always those fibers that cling to you and to support you and to nourish you, you know, to give you that place and to provide safety and space for you in that squash, in this place that we call Earth. You know, so if people are looking for themselves, you know, to go within, because when I clean that squash, all of these stories come flooding out for me to think about because I can use that medicine of teaching to help somebody move from that place of being disconnected. Because I can reconnect them again, just like that squash can, you know, in its ability to pass those seeds back into the earth and to come and to develop more squash, more life, you know, to be connected to. So, you know, when we talk about relationship, like it exists everywhere, you know, and there's no way that you can be really disconnected. But if it's put in your mind, you know, and things are putting our minds to change us from who we are and the gifts that we can offer, you know, we get guided into a direction to be this or that. Like yesterday, I was at a conference, and you know, and people were identifying who they were and the kind of work they did, and every one of them, they were scientists, some were social workers, some were mental health workers, some were social workers, and worked in science, and you know, they all had a different occupation. And I thought about myself because I'm waiting for her to call some kind of description that I can fit into. But I realized that I could fit into all of those because I do all of that work,
Mhm.
because I understand my relationship with the earth,
Mm.
and I understand our way of life, with our people.
Mm.
And I can connect with other nations of people because I can see the similarities, and we're all here to honor life. We're not here to take away life. We're supposed to be here to honor that, every day, every moment that we have. So in your conversation, you talked about, finding those places of joy, of enchantment,
Mm.
of magic, but those things have been shut off from our minds through colonization. So they have to establish now a Wonderland or a Disneyland, and all of these games that have created, and got in touch with maybe some of our imagination, our creativity, but they're not an enhancement to our life as human beings, where they're inanimate. They're created out of machine, and it takes away the realities that we face in life, because kids think that they can, go on and win this. And most of the games are all violent, that you see on those videos. They're all violent. And look at our society, is turning more and more towards violence. So there's a whole connection of thought process, to find that common thread of how did we get here, you know, without recognizing the beauty that already exists in our life every day, every moment, like seeing those bunnies, like seeing, the road runners that are in the driveway, with their eggs, and we miss out on all of that beginning of life, and how they teach us about how we care for our children, our families, our community, by singing songs or dancing, and not all of us are dancers, not all of us are singers, but we have something to make that picture complete. Thank you.
Thank you, Norma.
Well, thank you.
We were just continuing our small group conversation and welcoming you, but you're obviously stepping right back into where we left off when you went into your small group. And yes, we were talking about baby bunnies that our daughters found here, and magic and enchantment, and how to hold the small with the enormity of the challenges, and the teachings that can come from really tuning in to what's right in front of you. And we'd be curious to hear what came up from your small group conversations. If you'd like to share that in the chat, we would welcome that. And we'd also welcome anyone just using your voice to share either a comment, a question, or something that's connecting for you as you are part of this conversation. So please chat anything, or just go ahead and take yourself off mute. And introduce yourself if you do that. We'd love to know who you are. We'll give it 20 seconds here as people consider.
if I can go,
Oh,
I'm trying to be
Pavel,
brief.
hey.
yes, please, Pavel, come on in.
I'm sorry to not turning off my camera. I'm in a public space. It's
Nice to see you.
nice to
Absolutely.
see you, and thank you for having us, and thank you deeply, Norma and Erica, for your words and your work. I am Mexican. I am the director of Migrant Services at the Cooperative Development Institute and alumni of the New Leadership Institute with these beautiful people. So this kind of conversation resonate with me because it brings me my childhood and the ways we grow in our communities in Mexico, and some of our communities in Mexico with indigenous backgrounds, and we used to ask permission to the land to grow the seeds and ask permission to cut our heads, our hair, not heads, hair, and have a strong relationship with the land, and we even give some taste of the food when we prepare something to the land, and that kind of work I was telling in the small group, it resonate because it is important connections we need to have and develop and recover with the land. I was telling about this wonderful book about the down of everything. They are trying to rewrite the history of the mankind and help the people to understand. Even the white people we used to have this connection, but they lost that. We need to awake that spirits. We need to help them to resonate, to understand they are part of this process, and we can build together something different. And and for that, I appreciate your words and your work. Thank you.
I see comments here in the chat that many parallels. Caitlin says so many parallels in our thinking and actions, feeling grateful for the camaraderie and the wisdom being shared with such generosity by Norma and Erica and Cynthia, saying, well, echoing deep thanks. Lots of gratitude here. Karen, do you have another question you wanted to offer before we start to close?
And Pale is out here and the cleaning.
Love to be able to, this is a place where questions from you all. You've already expressed that there are parallels, there are alignment, there are linkages to what's in your work, what's on your heart, what's on your mind. And love to be able to give an opportunity for you to pose a question, share a thought with Norma and Erica while they're here with us. So we can hear that from you as we continue to learn together and grow together. So you could use the chat. What are what are some of your favorite native wild plants that your communities gather and work with? There's one right there. What are some of your favorite wild plants that you gather, your community gathers and work with? Erica, I see your brain is.
I'm happy to answer, but I wanted to give the floor to Norma first.
Yes.
I think you're muted.
Unmute. Yeah, great.
That we're getting ready now to tap trees. So the maple tree is really important to us. It's one of our plants that we have that are It's part of our staple foods. So we gather all kinds of medicines that are available in the woods. But there's also protocol in like when we go to gather, whether they're a night plant or a daytime plant, whether they're fungus maybe growing off the trees. We're gathering hickory nuts like in the fall, and walnuts and beech nuts and butternuts, and um, there's a huge variety of nuts that exist in our midst. Um, and most homes have a hickory tree that grows beside their homes, and so the ground is always covered with hickory nuts and walnuts, and they grow in abundance. And the other thing that we gather is the elderberries, and that's a good tonic for colds and flu, and it's an immune builds up our immune system. We have like wild grapes that we harvest for making jam. We have wild strawberries that we gather. And we have a celebration for those because they're the first berries that show themselves to us. And they're the ones that are filled with a lot of vitamin C. We gather those, and then from there we have raspberries, and then the black raspberries. There's gooseberries that grow here as well. We have wild cherry trees and wild plum trees, and lots of apples that are just, they're just growing everywhere. And because they're wild, or they're part of the landscape, that they don't get very big because there's no one to prune the trees, and only the wind that's working in harmony with the plants in the springtime. When the winds are strong, they prune all of those trees, but they don't do a thorough job, so we don't get to have great big apples like on the farms. But there's also no pesticides on them either, to harm them. Even though, like, through the air, that those toxins are emitted everywhere, and I imagine they still have an effect on our plants as well. But yeah, we have lots of barks that we use, and lots of roots that we use for medicinal purposes. So we're quite rich in in our habitat here in our territory. That those medicines are very plentiful. You know, the other thing too is that because of all the factories, and because we're by the river, that water is carrying toxins from these plants and hospitals, and all of these places of industry, and dumping into the river. So it's that water is traveling into the earth, and the plants are gathering that water from those sources. And so, the things are becoming, more affected by, the environment, the toxins that exist. We have fish, that we gather from the river, and streams. Like right now, there's a lot of wild, there's, what do they call them? There's perch, there's um, walleye, and sometimes we can catch salmon in the river. But the plentifulness too of fish is gone because of all the dams that have been built in the river, and they've made all of these different kinds of ladders for the fish to climb up. But Like the fish are smart. They're not going to go where they don't recognize, the environment that they're used to. So we have a lot of fishing that goes on. Some trapping a little, not as much as there used to be. I remember that we would have a neighbor, and he used to come down the road, and we could see these tails from the muskrats as he hung them from his belt, and he'd walk down the road, and he'd stop at this house and drop off one or two, and and come home, and he'd probably end up with maybe two or three. But he was passing it out to different people as he came upon their homes. And back then, we didn't have a whole lot of houses that we do now. Where he probably would come back empty-handed if there was that many houses available at that point in time. But yeah, we use a lot of bark. We use the root plants as well. We have the chicory that we use. We can make coffee from the roots, dried the roots. And not too familiar with the English names for the plants because we identify them through our language. But there are, many medicines which is told to us that, when we're sick, that we go out for a walk in the woods, that the medicines call our name, and they want to come home with us. So we pick those, and they're medicinal for whatever's going on with us. Or they might come to our doorstep, and grow around our doorways, our entrances, and they're telling us that this is the medicine that's needed. So we're fortunate in that way, to have that calling, and those plants that still, are obligated to us to help heal the community in whatever way that's possible. So, and of course that we have those limitations too, that, it might help you, to live maybe another week or another day, but they're still beneficial for you to take, and it could prolong your life for maybe, longer than you had expected, from a doctor diagnosis. But, nobody knows for sure. So, we that's why we have our midwinter ceremonies to ask for that, and to be grateful that they still come to us. That they're still in our territories for us to go out and build that relationship by going out to pick them. Spend time with them, to acknowledge and validate them, bring them home to visit us. And have a celebration because they're still here. So, yeah, there's an abundance of food that's available, but sometimes it goes by the wayside because we too dependent on grocery store. It's easier to go there than to go out into the woods and gather. So that's what we have available. And we're so lucky we have medicine people yet.
Mm.
Excuse me.
Oh, no problem. Thank you so much for that connection to the land and the herbs. Do you want to get some water, Norma? Are
Yeah,
you
I will.
okay?
Yeah.
Yeah. Got to make sure that we're nourished in the moment. Now, in the chat, just says Norma is getting some water to soothe her spirit and her throat.
Oh,
There was
Karen,
there,
I think Erica has not had a chance to answer the question about favorite. I would
Okay,
love to hear from our resident plant ecologist here. What are some of your favorites?
absolutely.
I see we have lots of questions in the chat, so I'll be pretty brief. I have my jars of dried plants next to me, so I'll just share this one if you can see if it focuses. We call that ayu, but it's a type of it's like Labrador tea, if you know that, but a different species. And when you walk along the tundra, it just grows abundantly, and so that's the smell, the aroma that you breathe as you're walking around the tundra, and it's one of my favorites. And we also use it medicinally or just for the flavor in tea. Um, and then Akpik, which is what we call the English name is cloudberry or salmonberry. It's a orange berry. It looks like an orange raspberry, but it has a really high vitamin C content. And so that's extremely important up in the Arctic, especially pre-grocery stores. And there was no access to, oranges or other things with vitamin C. That was a very important plant relative for our people, and also very culturally important today. And that's what I do my research on. I look at climate change impacts on the abundance of those berries in partnership with the village and Amidst.
Thank you. Norma, you okay? You got your water?
Yes,
Okay. Just want to
I'm
check.
okay.
Okay. Okay. We need you here. We need you here. You need you here. Erica, thank you for, as we have this very rich list, and because we're recording, we're going to be able to share this as a list for everyone to tap into in ways they haven't in the past. I just wanted to bring in from the chat that during the group conversation, they were talking about viewing the walking on the river and watching the squirrels and the small beautiful things that Norma mentioned as wisdom that was shown to them. And then there's also, suggestions of how to encourage that connection, more of that connection to the earth through the taking of the food and the convenience of the capitalism. So how can we shift that to be more connected to the food? And then we were talking about practices, right? That kind of leads us to what practices can we take in and expand that respects the land, as us as stewards of the land. So love for, I guess, asking for, how do we encourage that connection when people are not quite thinking of it yet? Norma.
I think that it's ingrained in you. But like we were talking earlier about, there's only one way to think, and, one way to do things, and one time to do things, like on vacation, or, it's not something that we're aware of or that has been erased from our thinking because of capitalism, because of, the availability of food. You don't have to work hard to go into the grocery store. So I think that, watching and listening, to the changes that are happening invites you to be, well, what's growing right now? Because right now there's the coming of the pussy willows. They're decorating, the tracks along the road, and we're seeing life begin, and acknowledging that and being grateful to be able to see that again. I think, just being aware of the changes that are happening within creation, being connected, to understanding what life is all about, because life is about work. It's about hunting and gathering and fishing and, building canoes, or, restructuring your home, You know, it's a harvest time for us to look at trees to see if they're available to build houses. You know, what kind of trees do we have? What kind of plants do we have? You know, are they edible? Are they, you know, can we go out and gather them, you know, and make a salad, or, you know, make some juice, or it's just watching creation unfold. It's like the mother giving birth, you know, and we pay attention to that child, to that that's being born at that moment, you know, to see the joy that it brings to your heart, you know, that you can be a part of this process. Um, Knowing, you know, the cycles of nature is how we work. Watching the stars, watching the moon phases. You know, it's being aware of our, you know, our current situation. You know, how do we participate in that? Like recycling, like, you know, not buying so much plastic stuff. Um, like there's so many things that you know, we can think about. Is that good for nature? Like, is it going to be beneficial for us? And not just for me, but is it going to be beneficial for my family? Is it going to be beneficial for my clan or for my nation, my territory? You know, is it going to be beneficial outside of that? You know, and how is it going to be beneficial? Is it going to make me healthy, like mentally, emotionally, physically, and spiritually? Or is it going to be damaging to me? You know, so we should be thinking about those things, you know, as we prepare our food for our family. Like, or is it better to go to McDonald's or to Wendy's or A&W, or, you know, those kind of services? And what benefits are in that food? You know, is it an enhancement to our thinking, our vision, our hearing? Like, the relationship is so give and take, like, and it's meant to create balance, you know, in our life, in our thinking, you know, in our doing, in our building relationship. We're always trying to work at creating that balance of reflection from, you know, creation itself, from the solar system, you know, through the earth. You know, there's energies all kind that exist, you know, traveling every day to make the world a better place. Like, you know, the weather's changing, the sun's going to shine, the rain comes, you know, it gets cloudy. This morning it was foggy because of the weather systems, you know, cold and warm, and they mix and they create a fog, you know. So, you know, paying attention to those kinds of things, because it's telling us something. And we have to use our minds to think about, what is that? What is that that's on its way here? You know, preparing us. We're always in a time of preparation, you know, where we have so many stories that are there for our, you know, intervention, for prevention. You know, um, it's just using your mind. That's, my mom used to always say, you know, your mind is your greatest gift. You know, what could you do without it? Because it's connected to everything in your body, for movement, for thought processing, for tasting, for, you know, listening, for hearing, for seeing. You know, there's so much in it, and I think that that relationship from us as the human being, it tells us so much about the land itself. Like the Great Lakes, you know, is in our organs. You know, we there's so many similarities between a human being and the continent of North America. You know, finding those places, like that's how come we call it Turtle Island, because it looks like a turtle. You know, and it was our beginning. You know, so we see those things repeat themselves over time. You know, the seasons, like, you know, this season we're just coming through is telling us the earth is warming up, like it's waking up now. The mother's in a process of giving life. She's in her labor time. You know, so pretty soon we'll be seeing, like I said, we see pussy willows now growing. You know, it's a beginning. Pretty soon we'll see the willows, and they'll be coming with a tinge of green. You know, and then the next tree, and the next tree. You know, and pretty soon we'll see flowers, you know, dandelions everywhere. You know, but it's about medicine too. You know, it's about healing. You know, it's so it's so complicated, yet it's so simple. You know, and I think that's why people get confused, is because everything should be simple, but we like to make it complicated to exist. You know, like even for the way that the way that I look, like that belongs to me. You know, nobody else. I might have a similarity with my children that look like me. I know I look like my mom. I have a similarity about her, you know, and like there's so many things that we can look at to find ourselves and to know why we're in relationship, why a relationship is so important. You know, it's about identity. It's about where we come from. It's about the landscape. It's about the weather. It's about the seasons. You know, we always want to change how we look because we're not happy with what was given to us. So we try to change it. You know, we use more makeup, you know, go on a diet. You know, we've been conditioned to those kinds of things that we're not perfect. You know, always there's an improvement somewhere, you know, maybe in our minds. But what was given to us was to identify us, who we are, you know, the color hair we have, you know, whether it's curly or straight, whether it's wavy, you know, that's ours, you know, the gift that gave the creator gave us. And we're not happy with it. Like he had such a great plan when he created all of us, you know, and gave you a special gift, give you a different understanding of life, honored you, you know, thought about you and your journey on this earth walk, filled you with tools to, you know, to deal with life situations. And yet we're still looking for answers in the sky, in the water, in the oceans, in the seas, and, you know, up into the heavens. You know, like we're never satisfied with what was given to us. Always got to look for something more, you know, and yet it's evolving naturally through our lifetime. But we forget to look at that, to be present just for today, just for this moment right now, you know, for what we learn, what we can, people we can be with. Like when we do our Thanksgiving address, like that's the first thing that we give gratitude for is for the people, you know, because we need people to learn, to share, to care for, to live with, to learn from, you know, but we don't think of it like that. So we gotta settle down, settle down.
Oh, yes, be fully present in the moment.
Mhm.
Fully present in the moment. That's one of our community agreements with our Food Solutions New England. I mean, that's one of the ones we lead with. We only gave you a snapshot earlier, but that's one of
Yeah.
the ones we're, oh, full are we. And
Yes.
thank you so much, Erica and Norma. Oh my goodness. Thinking about, just want to lift up, and I know that there's more and more and more. Certainly, one of the groups was talking about the the overgrown, right? The overgrown, as you mentioned, Norma, you take the dandelion. Well, dandelions were not considered good plants. They were considered not wanted plants. You know, we call the undesirable, the invasives. But yet there's much, right? There's much that can be, you know, you could dry them, you could eat the flowers, they're edible. And that's also in, Erica, you know, you do this work all the time. Just
Yeah.
recognize that from one culture, one people to the other, there's abundance, abundance. And
Yeah.
looking at it in that way, as opposed to, well, yeah, that's, I don't use that word, but the W word, and the W word, there's no W word. You know, in terms of all those can be part of someone's culture, part of someone's everyday celebration, and just recognizing that the land gives us so many daunting gifts.
Mhm.
And this is something Curtis and I, we need more time with you, more time with you. And we're going to have to carve that out in some kind of way. Maybe it's just sitting down and having this chats and kind of recording it or something. But we need more than 25, 30 minutes with both of you. So we're going to name that now. We're going to name that now, and we're going to, pull that in, that aspiration in as
Mhm.
one of our dreams. We're dreaming today. We're dreaming today.
Yeah.
So love it, Curtis. I
Yeah, I
know.
was just going to offer, I know Erica has to leave in just a couple of minutes. And so wanted to maybe invite you and Erica just to leave us with a closing thought. What are you sitting with? What would you like to offer us before you leave us? And then we probably should start winding this section down, take a break, and we'll come back for more. But without Erica and Norma, we will continue the conversation. But Erica, over to you.
Yeah, Koreana, everyone, for your time and being here today. And I just love listening to your wisdom and learning from you. It's been an honor to be in this space with you. Um, like Curtis said, I have to leave you all here, but I just want to encourage you to make that effort and take the time to um, appreciate those small things and the beauty, and build that relationship in land and develop your personal practice um, in that relationship building. And if I'm happy to connect with people later, if you want to talk about putting that relationship into your food system, next at another time. But I'm a joy to be here, and thank you.
Thank you so much, Erica. And yes, to be continued for sure. And Erica's doing wonderful work also around community engagement and work and engaging with Indigenous knowledge and Indigenous communities. So we will follow up with an email more about each of their work. And we do hope this is just another step in a longer partnership between us. Karen, I'm wondering if what I might do here is just quickly put into the chat a Slido link for people who do not know Slido. it's a poll that allows you to answer a question that then I'm just going to share it very briefly on my screen so you can see it. It's a pretty nifty tool that you can contribute to through laptops online or through phones as well. And so we'd love to know, what is one, I'm sure there are many, but what is one teaching you are taking with you today? I'm going to share my screen so you can see what I'm looking at. And it actually aggregates things live as you share. So you can also join Slido by using the hashtag and that number on your phone. So as soon as somebody starts typing, it would start showing it on the upper screen. And we've done this at various convenings. So hoping some of you will contribute what you have taken, because we'd love to feed this back to Erica and Norma and also to our network. So much how we can extend these really generous teachings during their time. And then I think what I'd like to do maybe, Karen, is just to wrap up this portion with a reading, and then we'll say more about what happens after our break. Anything else, Karen?
Yeah. Wonderful.
All right, so just very quickly, I'm returning to this book, which a few of you have asked about in the chat. So again, Richard Wagamis, who's an Ojibwa writer, no longer with us in body, but very, very much with us in spirit as a teacher. This last book, or most recent book that was published of some of his writings, is called What Comes from Spirit. And he has these wonderful conversations that he writes about with someone called Old Woman. And this is one of his exchanges with Old Woman. And so the me in this case is Richard Wagamis. Me, what's the biggest strength Creator gives me? Old Woman, choice. Me, that seems kind of small. Old Woman, it's your true power, your biggest power. Me, really? How so? Old Woman, with it, you get to direct the course of your life. You can choose to give up. You can choose to hang on. You choose to feel angry. You choose not to listen, to stay tied to your past, to blame, to be prideful, to ignore humility. You choose ego over your heart, to be a reactor or a creator. But you can also choose to let go, to have dignity, to forgive yourself and others, to see how valuable and beautiful you are, to be vulnerable and share your true self, to not be a victim. You can choose to be happy. Me, all that is mine. Old woman, it always was and always will be, but you have to choose it. Thank you for choosing to be with us for this portion of this session of the winter series. We are going to take a 20-minute break. We hope some of you, if not most of you, will come back. We understand it is a long commitment, but you'll get the chance to meet our wonderful colleague, Alex Redfield, hear more about our climate resilience campaign, and we'll be weaving threads, much like the squash invites us to do with our conversation this morning. So we'll take a break until 11:30, and this will remain open. If you know anyone who might want to join us, go get them, bring them around the screen. See you soon, and thanks so much, Norma and Erica. Lots of love coming your way. Yes, big hugs to you both.
Thank you. So we're done now.
We are done now, Norma. I mean, we
Okay.
aren't done. We would love to have you all day. We want to be with you all day, but we know
All
you.
day, all week, all month, all year.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yes.
Unfortunately, I have to run around. I'd love to be here with you all day, every day,
Mm,
and just talk and to watch things flourish,
mm,
you know. So
Thank
thanks
you so
again
much,
for
Norma.
the invitation to participate. And I really enjoyed my time. I love talking about our culture, and I love the things that I've learned, and like to share them with other people to to build those relationships and to create that equity, and the peace like that we should know in this land.
Mm, mm, mm.
So
Thank you.
Nyawa, we'll see you
Thank
again.
you so much.
Yes, we look forward to seeing you again. Thank you,
It was
Meg.
good medicine to hear you speak about all your relations, Norma. Thank you so much for sharing your wisdom with us as an elder. I truly appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Ona.
Nah, lots of love.
Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you, Norma.
Thank you.
We'll see you again soon.
Okay.